Once upon a time, brothers and sisters, decorum was not a nice to have. It wasn't an ornament. It was the operating system of American life. 100 years ago, a handshake really meant something. Thank you. That was a moral duty. And we all said please, and we all said thank you. And it wasn't just because Emily Post demanded it. It was because a democracy that was built on strangers required it. Manners were proof that we could govern ourselves. Then came the 60s. The curtain was pulled back. Young people looked at the starch collars and saw hypocrisy. They traded yes, sir, for hey, man, believing that authenticity mattered more than etiquette. And some of that revolt was righteous, taught us that politeness must never be an alibi for injustice. The 80s, that gave us a new code. It brought inclusive language, political correctness, an etiquette of care rather than refinement. Not which fork you used, but whether your words wounded somebody else. And then the screens showed up. Email replaced letters and the written word. Tweets replaced actual conversations. Speed rewarded spectacle, and the old rituals frayed like an overworn coat. Today, we exist and live in some kind of a paradox. We cheer the blunt truth teller, and in the same breath, we demand precision down to the pronouns that we use. So, what do we do? What's the way forward? Where do we go? Well, I think it's important to remember that decorum is not a costume, it is a practice of care. It is the boring heroism of paying attention, of speaking without poison, truth without poison, of disagreeing without contempt, of greeting the stranger with dignity. High trust isn't magic, it's maintenance. Our republic is not held together by algorithms or hashtags, but by a million small courtesies, the door that we hold open, the voice that we keep calm, and the willingness to actually listen before it's our time to talk. Actually listening and hearing what somebody else is saying instead of just waiting to blabber out words. Let us be the people who prove that self government still works, not just at the ballot box, but also at the dinner table, in the comment thread, and the quiet daily choice to be both honest and kind. To be honest and kind. Wouldn't that be nice? Could all be kinder. And we can all be honest. So we can say what we mean in a kind way. Both of those things can be true at the same time. I wanted to explore decorum, and frankly, the degradation of it, the disappearance of it in modern living. And I was just curious over the last 125 years, give or take, how it's shifted and what those sort of high water, low water marks have been. And you can go back to, like I was talking about at the top, the early 20th century, and that's when formality was viewed as a civic virtue. In the 1900s, decorum was closely tied to character and respectability. So when you put your good manners to work, it was a signal of morality and trustworthiness. So schools actually taught etiquette. Emily Post wrote a book called Etiquette in 1922 that set the standard for it. It was demanded in society that valued conformity and upward mobility. So the idea was that decorum equaled morality, and being that behaving well was synonymous with being a good citizen and a good person. After the wars, after World War I and World War II, 1945 to the 60s, it was a period of what's referred to as polite prosperity. So, suburban growth reinforced politeness as social glue. It was handshakes, going to church, Mr. and Mrs. Nice to see you. TV like Leave It to Beaver showed restrained speech and how do you solve conflicts in a proper way. But underneath that, there was certainly tension between politeness and also people feeling like they were suppressed. So the civil rights movement and feminism came to be and challenged the idea that civility should mask injustice. I don't think that that's ever a good thing. We should never just pretend that something isn't there just because we're nice to one another. The 60s and 70s brought in the idea of authenticity versus politeness. The counterculture movements rejected sort of squeaky clean, cookie cutter plastic manners as tools of the man or the woman, as it would be. And we became a lot more formal, or rather informal, moved away from formality. It was jeans, first names, protest chants. So it was honesty over etiquette. And this idea of decorum was reframed as performative, and sincerity and self-expression became the moral good. So being yourself, being sincerely, unapologetically yourself, that became the good thing. The 80s and the 90s, we had political correctness, professionalism. In both Wall Street and Silicon Valley, what was prized the highest were polished presentations, political correctness that emerged with inclusive language, which is a new form of decorum that focused on avoiding harm rather than displaying our refinement. So the shift moved from how proper are you to how careful are you with others' dignity. From the 2000 to 2010s, it's this major period of digital disruption. We had emailing and texting, and Twitter was eroding these face-to-face rituals that we all engaged in. Casual grammar and constant sharing made access more valuable than polish. So we just wanted to get information. We prized that over some polished, revised final product. Calls for civility returned as anonymity fueled trolling and outrage. So that's kind of an ironic thing, but a very, very human thing. So bringing us forward to where we are today, there's just, we live in the most polarized time that I can certainly remember. And decorum has become a bit of a paradox. We've got radical candor going on. We love people who call things or say it like it is, celebrated for authenticity. What makes some people love Donald Trump is the same thing that makes some people hate Donald Trump. Um, I think that there's these I think micro etiquette would be a good term for it, where pronouns and microaggressions, uh, I remember the first time I heard the term microaggression and trigger warning and safe spaces. It was right around probably 2015, 2016. That's when a lot of this stuff started to happen. Stuff. So what the result is that we now oscillate between craving blunt truth and demanding that I am absolutely precise and don't make any errors with words. So it's difficult, if not impossible, to try to balance all of those things. And of course, what's driven all of this is technology. So instant, really fast communication, um, and virality. These are the things that are more prized. So we value the speed and the spectacle over reflective thoughtfulness. So, and it's not helping that nobody trusts the institutions either. And individualism and self-expression, we prize that and put that above deference. And there's, of course, implications to all of these things. In everyday life, decorum is less about fixed manners and more about contextual empathy. So your ability to read the room, respecting lots of different values. And I think that a personal practice, contemporary, current decorum asks us, how do my words land rather than which fork am I supposed to be using? And I think that there's value in that. There's value in all of it. But so the opportunity is to, I think, reclaim some civility so we can still speak the truth while speaking it respectfully. And I think that that is what's going to be essential to rebuilding social trust, to be honest, to be sincere, and to be kind. Honesty and kindness. Honesty and kindness. Because how you show up matters. Your behavior matters. How you present yourself and move through the world matters. And apathy is a powerful, powerful force. It is the destroyer of individuals, it's the destroyer of organizations, it's the destroyer of towns, cities, states, nations, civilization. So it's easy to look around and see that so many people around you have sort of folded their cards. They don't carry themselves. They don't hold themselves to a standard of any kind. And it's easy to say, well, nobody else is doing this. Nobody else is holding themselves to a standard. Nobody else is working really hard to be honest and to be kind, to be polite, to have good manners, to not cut people off in traffic, to not just leave my shopping cart everywhere, to not litter, to the list goes on and on and on, to not be a complete total slob. I remember at least seeing pictures of people, getting on airplanes in suits and putting on their Sunday best. And that's certainly been replaced by whatever. But not you. Easy to do it, but not you. No, you've made the decision about who it is that you are, the person that you want to be, and you're going for it. You've got a personal standard that you hold yourself to. And if you don't, I recommend that you consider that and you think about how it is that you want to be perceived, how you want people to perceive you, and you figure out how to be showing up in that way that's going to get you the result that you want. I can't imagine that there's too many people out there who, if given the opportunity, wouldn't be honest and wouldn't be kind. But I know that that's just not true. I see a lot of people out there who are seemingly dishonest and very, very unkind. So this stuff it's not by any means like I opened our time with today. Uh, it's available to all of us. And just because when you look around and you see certain things happening doesn't mean that that's the way that they ought to be. It's the way that things currently are. And I'm not trying to bend the rest of the world around my wills, whims, desires. What I am interested in doing is becoming the best possible version of me, understanding who it is, who I want to be, the kind of work I want to do, going about that, doing it, and in so doing, giving evidence to the world and to others of what I'm all about, that I am interested in being honest, and that I'm capable of being kind, and that those two things are not mutually exclusive. And I see value in returning to a level of decorum and civil society. And if we're able to do that, that just feeds into and lends itself to a high trust society, which is really what I want to get back to. So that's something that each one of us individually is able to do. Certainly, I have some influence over the world of politics, and I have influence over who I vote for, and I can pick up my phone and say, why in the world are we not enforcing the laws, or why are we allowing this to go on? I can do those things. But my level of personal decorum, how I comport and conduct myself, how I interact with the other human beings on planet Earth is entirely within my control. Then if I'm doing it with honesty and kindness, top of mind, front of mind, I think that that's a powerful step in the right direction. A powerful step in the right direction. And I hope that we can all do that. And none of it's a game of perfect. Just because I intend to do it doesn't mean I'm not going to screw up. I'm not going to come up short, but it also doesn't mean I'm not going to keep trying. And I hope the same for you. I hope that You are doing your part by doing your best.